Alrighty, so I got the recording going. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is OFdp. I've been playing Tekken for a little over 10 years. I guess maybe even longer now, I don't know. So I've played Jack mainly since the beginning of Tekken 6. Not so much anymore, but still enough to know what I'm doing. So I've had a lot of competitive experience with him. I played him all through 6, all through tag. Been through a lot of tournaments, placed well with him at major tournaments like Final Round. And I've got my ass beaten as him a lot by people that know what they're doing against Jack. So I kind of know how both ends of the matchup go, and I want to try to help other folks understand the matchup a little better and do a couple key things that can really help simplify your game plan against him, since he has one of the simpler game plans in general. If you can neutralize or a few key things, it'll help you in the long run. So why am I making this? Making it mostly actually to help out a buddy of mine who's been kind of struggling in the matchup, like a lot of people learning the game, having a lot of trouble dealing with the character. Jack, in general, in my opinion, is such a good character against just every echelon of player. Like, the lowest level for Jack, it's very, very easy. The mid-level, it's still very easy. I mean, back in Tekken 6, the first things I would do in a tournament match if I wasn't familiar with my opponent would be, I'm going to forward one you a bunch to see if you can move around the screen, and then I'm going to full crouch down back one into throw you to see if you can break throws. And I would get through so many people, and again, in kind of every echelon, from the lower to the mid, that overall strategy was just really good. Back then, Jack Deathfist was a launcher that took over half your life too, so especially in tag. So that strategy was kind of even more effective. So he's just really good at kind of handily taking care of just kind of lower and mid-level players that don't really know the matchup and maybe don't know the game, don't have their movement down, that kind of thing. I mean, forward one just kind of does a lot of that work for you. So that's kind of one of the moves that I try to, when I'm teaching people this matchup, that I kind of try to help them get around or know how to deal with. But in general, I find, and maybe this is my opinion, maybe I'm crazy, but with Saint, Anakin, all those high-level guys playing Jack, I've seen a lot of Jack matches in this game and previous games, and I find that even high-level players in the US do not do a lot of fundamental things against Jack that I feel like they should be doing. I mean, Jack as a character has been dominating the US scene since like back in Tekken 5. You had guys like Awario in Tekken 5, and then Anakin, kind of really put the character on the map in Tekken 6 and played him all through tag. And now in 7, you've still got Anakin, you've got Joey Fury, Jackie Tran, and then obviously one of the best players in the world, Saint. I mean, all of these high-level players playing this character really, really well. And thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. All these high-level players playing this character, and I just don't know how people expect to beat them if they're not even employing kind of the basics of beating the character, let alone beating the character being piloted by some of the best players in the nation, or in Saint's case in the world. So I'm not going to go into like super deep depth. I mean, that's kind of for people to do on their own to learn how their characters deal with different things. But I'm going to go over some kind of common things. I'm going to start with commonly unpunished moves, or moves that just aren't getting punished as hard as they could. A couple tricks for a couple different moves to punish. And then we'll kind of go into some general anti-Jack strategies, or strategies that he's going to use against you, and kind of common ways to beat those. Last, before I go into that, I want to kind of give a disclaimer. Obviously, even if you work on all of this stuff, and I give you, I say jab in this situation, Obviously, if you're against a better player, they're going to adapt to that kind of thing. So don't take anything I say here unless it's like punishment for a move as the end-all be-all. Obviously, you have to kind of mix up your game plan, do what you're going to do to win. My goal in what I've outlined here is to do what you can do to stop the kind of autopilot that a lot of jacks fall into, and that's from mid-level to high-level. If you can stop a lot of the autopilot mix-ups and autopilot scenarios, it's going to make them have to think a lot harder. And again, if you're playing a really good player, you're still going to have a lot of work to do. But the kind of lower to mid-level jacks, all of a sudden they're going to be put in a really uncomfortable situation that they don't know how to deal with, and it's going to make beating them a lot easier for you. But again, yes, so just keep in mind, good players are going to adapt, and even someone like me who knows the character inside and out, knows how to beat them, I'm not going to be able to go like beat Anakin or Joey, because I'm just not as good as they are. I remember the first time I played Anakin Jack, I was telling, I've been bitching about people not knowing Jack well enough since Tekken 6, and I went to play Anakin at a KIT, and my buddy Exalted on TZ was like, oh, even knowing Jack, it's still not, easy to beat those guys, is it? I'm like, well, no, obviously, it's one of the best players in the country. Knowing this stuff is going to help, but it's not going to be everything. So, let's get started. Enough of my ramblings. So again, I want to start with kind of some common punishable moves from Jack that I don't see get punished hard enough or a lot or some combination of the two. I'm going to start with forward 2. Jack's forward 2 is his 10-frame punisher. It's also his kind of get off me move. On counter hit, it obviously leads to the big boot, does a lot of damage. So that move is actually minus 12 on block. And for a lot of characters, that means a fairly beefy punish. So like Miguel gets 2-1 into Savage. A lot of characters get like a knockdown. And obviously, you're not going to get it every single time. Forward 2 comes out very, very quick, which means you have to react to the punish very quick, which it's impractical to say that you're going to get the minus 12 or 12 frame punish on it every time. But it feels like a lot of people don't even know that. So again, forward 2, as you can see, Miguel's Magic 4 is 12 frames. Minus 12. So if you've got his back to the wall and he's trying to get out of pressure with forward 2 and you block it, a lot of characters can put him into the wall. So something like that is important to know. And there's not really any pushback. Obviously, like Miguel with his T-Rex arms, at certain ranges is going to have a hard time, so he would have to use Magic 4 sometimes. But, that's Miguel. Another big one that I see, and this one's a little tougher, and that's his forward 1+2, his hug. That is actually, if he just does it naked, with no follow-up, is minus 15. It would help if I could do the move. I got a brand new pad, so bear with me. Just the hug is minus 15. Wow. Like I said, it would help if I could, do the move. I might just have to start going into the move list. Alright, so as you can see, minus 15. Hop kick will punish that. That is a move that goes unpunished a lot, and obviously that is because it has the follow-ups. But, a lot of players aren't going to go for the follow-ups the first time, or any of the times. I see some Jack players just do the hug a lot and don't do anything else with it because it goes unpunished. So it's a really long-range, really well-tracking launcher, and if it just ends up being safe every time, I'd use it a lot too. So some important things to note about that. So obviously, minus 15. So if they get in the habit of just doing the hug, you can launch them for that. Now, some other things to know. For characters that have a good hop kick, like Miguel, if you punish with hop kick, get in the habit of doing that, you can actually crush the low follow-up too. So let's see here. So if you lock and load your hop kick punish to punish the forward 1+2, you're also going to crush the low follow-up. So if they do that to try to make it safer, anticipating that you're going to do some other kind of punish, you're going to be able to go right over that. So say I try to punish with like my 14 frame punisher, which leaves me standing. I get counter hit, right? But because the hop kick gets you off the ground, you're able to cover both options if you have a hop kick. So that makes your life a lot easier. Characters with a hop kick, obviously, or in general, are better against Jack. Hop kicks are good to have for him. But then there's obviously the mid follow-up, and hop kick does not beat that. You're going to get knocked out of the air for not too much damage. So if I was playing a character with a hop kick, I'd probably go for it a lot. Because I guess unless you're about to die, worst case scenario is you get hit out of the air with the 2 follow-up, and it does a very, very small chunk of damage. Nothing to really concern yourself with. But as far as dealing with that mid follow-up, if that's something they start doing all the time, a lot, because you're hop kicking them or something, you can step it to the right and launch him. You can also interrupt it. So say you have, like, Miguel has back 1. Anything 13 frames or faster will interrupt the punch. Anything 14 frames will trade. So I'm going to do Miguel's shove, which is 14 frames, and you're going to see that it trades. So it's up to you if they're doing that punch, how you want to deal with it. Obviously, the more consistent option is going to be to sidewalk it and launch it. But again, if you're playing, you know, say Steve, who doesn't have like a hop kick or something, you know, you could back 1. So that's Hug. Again, Hug is, I think Hug is probably one of those moves that I most commonly see go unpunished, and it's important because again, it tracks really well. So if you're sidewalking, say his forward 1 at a distance consistently, you're gonna see them start to huck that thing out, and you want to make them pay for it. Next on the list is going to be forward 2, another big beefy launcher. It's generally used to punish things like big lows, you know, snake edge, wipe the floor, stuff like that. But it's got a lot of pushback. So even lately I've been seeing guys like Joey use this a lot more, just in general against characters that really don't get a good punish for it. So say Miguel, his down forward 3-2 is 16 frames. So it's minus 16. But as you can see, hop kick, not really an option for him. And if I try to jab, nope, I'm gonna get pooped on for doing that too. So know that it's minus 16, but it's got a good chunk of pushback. So you have to find for your character the 16 frame move that's gonna consistently punish that. So for Miguel, not great, but consistent. You know, at all the ranges, that down forward 3 is gonna hit. So you have to find that for your character, but just know forward 2, minus 16. The next one is interesting, and I think there's some things about this next move that a lot of people don't know. So I'm going to talk about the down forward 1 series. Down forward 1-1, obviously, is the mid, puts you into a tailspin on hit, lots of plus frames if you get hit by it, minus 10. So let's just see that punish real quick. Only minus 10. So you get your jabs on it, alright? So then, you've got the other string, which is down forward 1-2 into the 1-2 follow-ups. Interesting little tidbit about this move. It has a property where it almost jails. So, first off, every variation of that, whether I do down forward 1-2, just 1 punch, down forward 1-2-1, which gives out 2 punches, all of those are at least minus 10. So, what you can actually do is, let's see here. If I record him and do down forward 1-2, right? And then I also record and I do down forward 1-2-1 to do both the punches. After you block the first high, you can actually mash out jab. And if he just does the first punch, you'll jab him. And if he does the second punch, even if you're pushing a button, you're still going to block the second punch and jab him as soon as the animation ends. So let's see that. So I'm going to play it, and I'm going to mash out one jab as soon as the second punch comes out. And you can see that I am, no matter what, even though I'm mashing out jab, it's probably hard to see on the camera, but no matter what, I am still blocking that second hit. So, if either of those two jab options come out, you can always get your 10-frame jab punish. Now, let's throw in the last hit. The last hit sends you flying way, 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 way back. But it's actually really punishable. I believe it's like minus 18 or 17. Let me just double check. I thought I had that written down in my notes, but I don't. Shoutouts to Tekken Chicken, made by my boy Nick DeJesus, keeping me straight on all the good stuff. So down forward, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, minus 18, squiggly 17. So minus a lot. So let's get that one recorded. Let it rip, and then just so we can see kind of the pushback on it. So it's minus a lot, right? And it's pretty darn hard to punish. Miguel actually only gets that. He can't do the follow-up because the follow-up will whiff because of T-Rex arms. Some characters get pretty beefy punishes, like Dragunov, I know, gets the forward 1+2 elbow and launches it. So this sequence also fits into the rules from before. So as soon as he does that high, the second high punch, you can start mashing out jab. And if he finishes the string, you have enough time to kind of see that the whole string came out and adjust according to what happened. So let's see if I can kind of demonstrate this. So I'm mashing jab, right? Okay. Oh, I forgot what the punish was. So I'm mashing jab the whole time. As soon as the second punch is blocked, I am mashing jab. And I'm getting my punish every time. And now he'll probably never do the whole string. But that's alright. So I'm always blocking, and hopefully he'll do the whole string here soon. And he probably won't. Okay. And I missed it. But with a little bit of practice, not being on the spot, you can see when that third hit comes out, you have time to kind of react, change it up, go into your punish for the full string. Now obviously, those hits are all high. So you also have the option of just ducking those punches. But in a tournament situation where it's the end of the round, say, you don't want to get mixed up, that's a really consistent option for punishing no matter what he does. You're blocking mid, so if he does just does down forward 1-1, you've blocked it, jab him. If he does any variation of the punches into the highs, you're blocking him, you're not going to die, you're going to be able to retaliate with a punish, you're still in the round. But that's just a really consistent way of punishing that string series. No matter kind of what he goes for, you'll have an answer for it. Alright, so let's see here. Another move that I see go unpunished a lot, and it's not even a move that most Jack players use on purpose, is forward 1+2. It's like a big gunshot. It's got a lot of range and it wall splats. It's minus 18, big pushback. Let's see. Yeah. Pushback is pretty big on it, so you gotta kind of use a ranged whiff punisher, or a ranged block punisher, sorry. 18 frames, most characters have something to handle that. Not even sure, his twin pistons might even hit on some ranges. Well, Miguel things, but alright. Minus 18, big pushback, make sure you punish it. This one, I mean, goes without saying, but I threw it in here just because it is one of the most important ones. Obviously, down forward 2, minus 14. You're not going to get the minus 14 punish every time, especially depending on what it is. But the more times you get it, the easier your life is, especially against jacks that like to use a lot of down forward 2. The difference from getting like jabs, 19 damage, or like my Magic 4, 17 damage, to getting shove into shove, 44, I mean, that's a ton. And it's like that for almost every character. Once you get up to the 14, unless you're Gigas, you know, who has the same punish from 10 to 14, you know, jumping from your jabs to your 14 frame punisher is usually a pretty big leap. So the more times, or your 13 frame punisher, you know, whatever. The more times you can do that in a match, the easier it's going to be for you to win, the harder it's going to be for them to want to throw out down forward 2. And as you kind of see in the strategies later, if you start adapting some of these other strategies, they're going to want to throw more down forward 2. So the more times you can block it and get the right punish, the better it is. But again, if we do some of the things that I'm going to get into in a bit, you're going to be able to anticipate and draw out those down forward 2s more. You're going to be more ready to punish them. Last on the regular move list for me is while standing 2-1. A lot of people I just don't think know that that's minus 14. So someone like Miguel gets a launcher if he blocks that. So just make sure most characters, again, have a meteor while standing punish for something that's around that frame, minus 14. Make sure you're getting it. Just something that, once you have it in your head, you do it a few times, you won't forget it, but, it's 2 hits, it's easy to react to, but minus 14. This one, I think most people know by now, but I threw it in there just so that we can see it. It's not going to let me. Let me see. I got to turn on. Will it let me now? Okay. His rage art, if you haven't found out the hard way yet, it's got a lot of pushback. So make sure when you're going into the Jack matchup that you know how to punish this. Because, like Miguel has to dash. Dash hop kick is usually enough. Just make sure you have that locked and loaded, because I've gotten people with it online where they just do normal up forward 4 and it whiffs and I launch them and I win. That should not happen, ever. Alright, so that kind of concludes the whole what moves are kind of going unpunished that need to be punished. I think it's important because those are moves that I see a lot in all kind of levels of gameplay go improperly punished, and those can make a big difference in your success in the matchup. So let's go into I have kind of 3 generic strategies from Jack players that I kind of want to address. Again, I apologize in advance if it's not perfect, but I think this will give you the idea. And this is how I kind of go about teaching folks the matchup when I'm teaching them. So one of the first things I try to do is to establish a decent answer for forward 1 on block. So let's review forward 1 on block. So it's a fun move, safe, hits you out all sorts of nonsense, does a lot of damage, has guaranteed follow-ups. It's his staple move, right? It's minus 5 on block, but it pushes him back. He bounces back, and it puts you at just like a weird distance. And the hitbox is strange too. Like, it can collide with your character, I feel like, in different places, so you're put at very different ranges. What can happen then is you can retaliate or have the urge to dash in, and some cheeky Jack players could do something like forward 1 on block into down forward 2. Yuck. Getting hit by that feels bad. So, one of the things that I try to teach people is to find a good answer for forward 1. This is especially useful in some of the lower level and mid-level Jack matchups where they're not going to read that right away. They're used to doing forward 1 and then pushing more buttons. So your best answer is generally a quicker mid, 15 frames or faster, that has good range. Now, a lot of characters, you're not going to find the perfect answer. For example, say Jin. His forward 4 is absolutely fantastic for checking this move. If I was a Jin player, honestly, I think I would forward 4 after every forward 1 I blocked. and it's probably minus on hit. It probably puts me in a crappy situation, but I would want that Jack player to know that I know you're minus, and if you do anything, I'm going to counter hit you. Now, again, in that situation, stop sign would beat Jin's forward 4, but still, even so, even though it's 16 frames, it's a very good long-reaching mid that can put the Jack player in check after you block that. So, for example, my buddy plays Paul. We found that probably his best move in that situation is just standing 3. 15 frames, long range, doesn't necessarily have to do the follow-up to, unless he knows that they're really going to push a button. But it's just something that if they do push a button recklessly, he's going to let him know, hey, can't do that. He's going to get some damage, take it back to the neutral. So that's one of the big things. If you have a long-reaching low that can kind of mix up with that, that's great too. So like I have down forward 3 as my mid, and I have down 4 as my low. Both of those will generally reach Jack, no matter the range, keeps him in check. Now as you can see, it is just touching him by the tip on both of these moves. So if he backdashes or just gets like the perfect range on forward 1, I whiff. Right? So those are the kind of things that a good Jack player is going to start looking for. But the goal here, again, I'm going to kind of reiterate this a few times as we go through, is to get them out of the dumb, easy autopilot stuff. The stuff like forward 1 into moves. The stuff like down back 1 into dash down back 1. Stuff like that. The things that they just want to kind of mindlessly do to run you over. We want to keep that stuff in check. Establish it right away that you know what's going on so that they have to stop and think, okay, what do I do now? And again, that's going to put a lot of players, not the top, but a lot of other kind of Jack players on their heels. They're not going to know exactly what to do. So again, just kind of conclude, find your long range mid. The faster the better. Mix it up with a long range low. Just to kind of get damage, like once they start blocking, and then if they just start blocking all the time, then you're definitely winning. You're definitely winning that fight, because now you can do stuff like if I was Miguel. Now if they're gonna start blocking, I'm gonna start like doing that to get into their face with frame advantage. Then you're gonna be able to start doing dash, dash into their face and low, or a slash kick, anything like that. Once they start blocking after forward 1, then you're going to start be able to kind of play your game with them. And you're going to go back and forth. You're going to have to, sometimes you're going to have to give them that answer again. Once you start like making them block slash kick after forward 1, then they're going to be like, all right, well, I can jab him out of that in this situation. So obviously the mind games are going to go where they go, but that's kind of where I like to start with folks, is find an answer for forward 1 on block, so that you can kind of limit his options. And then well, what is he going to have to do to beat this? Probably backdash. He's going to give up, his position. We're going to be back at the neutral. It's good. All right. So from there, I'm going to go into dealing with Jack's 2-jab. This has been a common way for Jack to kind of get his offense going since the beginning of time. Some players use this a lot more than others, but no matter who you're playing against, if they're playing Jack, you're going to see 2-jab. So what kind of follow-ups can you anticipate after 2-jab? I mean, really, any effing move they want, obviously, but you're going to see things like another 2-jab, a throw, down back 1, down forward 2, forward 1. Those are the kind of things that you're going to see. So, one thing that I like to do to kind of start off on the right foot, after I block a 2-jab, if I can react to it fast enough, I like to dick jab. Especially if I notice that they're really 2-jab heavy, I like to throw out a dick jab. Because that's going to beat out any of their jabby follow-ups. It's going to duck throws. If you do it right on point, it's going to interrupt a down back 1, a down forward 2, all that kind of stuff. And again, don't do it every time, because even Jack can sidestep and launch you for that, but it's the thing where you're just going to interrupt their flow, interrupt their autopilot, make them think a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, they're doing 2-jab into something crazy, or 2-jab into block, and then it's your turn again. Those are the kind of situations you want to make for yourself. Make them uncomfortable. Regular jabs, standing jabs, back at that, is also a decent option. You're going to tie with another 2-jab, you're going to interrupt a lot of the other options. The only thing that's going to beat you is 2-jab into stop sign, which you're not going to see very often unless you get in the habit of jabbing back every single time. Beyond that, what other things you can do? Sidewalk left or sidestep left are both very good options, but they both kind of accomplish two different things. So if you commit to a sidewalk left after a 2-jab, let's kind of put this on the screen and see it. So that will beat down back 1, it'll probably beat most throws, and then it'll beat like forward 1. So let's see here. Let's do 2-jab forward 1. Let's do 2-jab down back 1. Let's do 2-jab. This one's going to be tough on this new pad. It's supposed to be 2-jab tombstone. Okay. Alright, so let's kind of see those in action. Oh, must have recorded a long pause there.
The King in the North!
Hey, thanks for the follow. Bloodhawk, I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for stopping in. So as you can see, sidewalk left is going to get around a lot of those common options. What it's not going to get around, however, is 2-jab down forward 2. And if you're committing to a sidewalk, you're probably not going to be able to block down forward 2 in time. So what you're looking for really, if you're going to commit to a sidewalk left, is you're probably hoping they do forward 1. Because that's going to be the thing. Or down back 1 is good too. You can launch either of those options. But if you're committing to a sidewalk and they do down forward 2, you're going to be up in the air. So another option that you have is to simply sidestep left. However, with sidestep left, and to a very quick block. There's probably people better out there than me at this, but in my practice with this, I found that if you do just a small sidestep, you will get around down back 1, you will block down forward 2, but you will also have to block forward 1. So let's see here. I ducked. So, okay. So you get around the throw, and now he's going to sit there for a minute. But if you just do a sidestep, and I'm not even getting around down back 1. Oh, come on, Jack. But forward 1 no longer whiffs either. So, but you're going to be able to block down forward 2 if he ever puts it out, which you won't. And punish. So, just that mini sidestep can start baiting out the down forward 2s after you've already sidewalked a couple other moves, so that you'll be ready to punish. But those are the most common options that are going to beat most of his options after down back or after 2-jab on block. So your jab back, dick jab is really good just to interrupt their flow, and then otherwise you're probably looking to do some kind of sidewalk or sidestep to the left. Is going to beat out a lot of his options. Sidewalking is going to be more consistent in that regard. Alright. So the next thing I want to look at is Jack's full crouch game, which this is probably the biggest difference in his game from Tekken Tag. So in Tekken Tag, after down back 1, and I even believe after full crouch down back 1, you could actually step his while standing 2 to the right. You could step and launch him before the 1 came out, so there wasn't really any consistent way he had of keeping you in front of him if you knew the timing and knew how to step and launch him. In this game, however, you cannot step while standing 1 or while standing 2 anymore after down back 1 or full crouch down back 1. It will track you 100% of the time. And again, at least as far as I've seen, I've never seen anyone do it. So I don't know if it's because they gave another frame of advantage on down back 1 or they buffed the tracking on while standing 2. Probably the latter. But so you are forced to kind of stand there and take a guess more so than you were in the last game. So how I've been dealing with that and how I tell people to deal with that is, again, I'm a big fan of challenging them. In general, players are not going to go for the frame trap the first time. This is advice I give in a lot of different matchups, and take it for what it is. It works for me a lot. It might not be the best, but like, say Heihachi hits you with down back 2. 9 times out of 10, the first time they do that, they are not going to while standing 1. They're going to run up and do something. They're going to up forward 3-4, do something crazy. So a lot of times you're going to be able to hit them out of it. And then they're going to start going for the frame trap. It's the same situation here. They're going to go with while standing 2 a lot of the time. If you've watched Saint, he does it a bunch. A lot of players do it a bunch because it's safe, it's mid, it tracks. There's no harm, no foul if you throw out while standing 2. What are they going to do? They're going to block it. But jabs will interrupt that sequence. So let's see. And almost every other while standing move he has. I'm going to throw this out here just because it's a misconception that I actually had when I was learning the game, and it carried with me for a really, really long time. Just because the move is a while standing move does not mean it crushes highs. That is, again, that was my misconception, so I have to imagine someone else out there in the universe has had the same thing. Just because it's a move that comes out of while standing does not mean it crushes highs. So this is an example. That was while standing 2. Let's do while standing 1, 2. And you'll see that if I jab, I'm going to beat both of these, no matter what. Because it's faster. That was while standing 1 right there. So that's a good thing to keep in mind in general. Just because they're coming out of while standing does not mean the move that they're doing is going to crush a high. So a lot of times, after, say, like Brian down back 3, jabbing isn't a terrible option. Now, he's got something, that was probably a bad example because he's got some nasty moves, but just lows that put them in full crouch and that leave them minus on hit, jabbing isn't usually too bad. And this is the case here. So jabbing is going to interrupt his safest option, which is while standing 2. It's also going to interrupt any other shenanigans like, down back 1 into dash up down, crouch cancel down back 1, or dash up down back 1, or forward 1, like anything he's getting like really crazy and doing, jabbing after this on hit is going to interrupt it. Now again, that's something you want to do the first time, maybe the second time. If they're bad, maybe every time. But depending on the person, you're going to want to keep that in check. You don't want to get yourself into a habit of doing something every single time that's going to get you killed at, the end of a close set with a good player. But this is something that, again, it gets them out of that autopilot and makes them have to think about their options. So what are their options? Realistically, it's to either start hitting you with down back 1 and then backing up, hitting you with down back 1 and then staying in full crouch and doing another one of his really good lows, so that's kind of scary. He could commit to that. So he has a lot of options. But the one you're looking for, that's going to be probably the most common knee-jerk reaction, is to go for the frame trap. Once you start interrupting them with jabs, they're going to start going for the frame trap. And that is super easy to step. Now, I don't know if I'm just Miguel, but I'm pretty sure I can step this either way. But Miguel's got a pretty nasty sidestep. So if you start getting them going for that every time, boom, launcher, just for you. And then you can start jabbing them again, going back and forth. But again, just keep in mind, obviously, he has a lot of other options. Now, if he just goes into other lows and full crouch, not that scary, except for he's still at frame advantage, so you gotta be careful. So he can keep just picking away at you like that, but it's not as scary as, you know, some other options that he could pull out on you. So, let me see. The other thing to keep in mind is full crouch down back one is still like +5 on hit and +9 on counter hit. And jabbing after that hits you is not recommended. So you will want to make sure that you are jabbing only after down back one and not after full crouch down back one, or you're going to have a really bad time. As far as anything else out of his wall standing or full crouch, he has 2 moves that are really dangerous by the wall. That wall splat for a lot of damage. He's got his full crouch down forward 2, forward 1. And he's got while standing 3, 2, which is very delayable. I guess the verdict is out as to whether things are hit confirmable at all, but he can delay it for a real long time and it's still a natural combo. So something to watch out for. But both of those are mid-high. You're mostly going to see them near the wall. So be ready to duck and launch them. Alright, I think that goes through, again, that was all just kind of some more generic stuff, but these are the kind of generic things that I don't see a lot of people doing that are going to help you a lot. And again, even knowing all this stuff, practicing all this stuff, at the end of the day, Jack is a good character because even if you know all this shit, it doesn't matter. It matters, but his tools are still really good. Forward 1's still a really good move. Down forward 2's still a really good launcher. All of his lows are still plus frames, and most of them are safe. So no matter how much you know, he's still got really stupid good tools, and odds are he's being piloted by a pretty good player. So you're going to have to adjust your game plan accordingly, but using some of these techniques to kind of disable the autopilot, let them know that you know more about the Jack matchup than they might think you do. It's going to make them think about their options a lot more. I did throw in a couple last minute notes here at the end, just in general. So maybe this goes without saying, but blocking low generally against Jack is a really bad idea. And that's probably hard to get out of a lot of people's reflexes and tendencies. But unless it's a seeable low like down back 2 or debugger, you're going to get like literally 0 to very little reward. So low parrying is going to be your best option, or low crushing. If you have a safe low crush like a double gin up forward 4, for example, that's really good to throw out a lot. But if you have a hop kick, make the read sometimes. It's worth it, because if you block low, that's safe. It just doesn't add up. The damage is going to go in his favor. Single jab pressure, really good against Jack. Again, if I'm Miguel and I make him block a 1 jab, I'm at +1. Nothing he has is going to interrupt me, unless he goes like a down 2-1 or gets real crazy and does one of these, which is pretty much safe now, so that's not as crazy as it used to be back when I was using it. But just a really good way to apply pressure to a Jack player if you can get him to try to panic move out of there. A lot of those moves are very easy to step. So single jab, down forward 1, step, all that kind of fun stuff. And then make sure you know your Jack only wall combos. I feel like maybe they're not as prevalent in this game in general, but I don't see a lot of Jack only wall combos. And I know they're out there. And they do a lot of damage, so they're worth knowing. I think that's really about all I've got. So if you came in a little later, I should be archiving this. I'm also recording it so that I can edit it a little bit and put it up on YouTube. I should probably be able to do that tonight. It shouldn't take that long. Surprisingly, I didn't fuck up too many things. So, if you have any questions about the matchup, feel free to hit me up. I like to talk about Tekken. I like helping people. Again, I have a lot of years of experience playing this character, getting my ass beat as this character, and beating ass as this character. So, yeah, I'm a fairly knowledgeable source on the subject. Thanks for tuning in. I'm probably going to play some ranked here soon. I just got a new video card and stuff. I'm going to try to stream some PC Tekken. If I can't stream it, then I'm just going to probably go play it. But, so thanks for tuning in. I hope this was helpful to at least somebody out there. I know it'll be helpful to my friends, so that was at least worth it for that. But, yeah, alright. Go freaking beat some Jack players, man. Just do it. Everybody should go beat Saint. And if you need some inspiration, so what inspired me to do this? I said this at the top, but I didn't really talk about it. I've been watching a lot of people play Jack for a long time. And again, like I said, I don't see a lot of the core things, but damn, man, I watched Obscure versus Saint. And from the first round, I was like, this dude actually fucking knows how to play against Jack. He's actually put the time in. He's practiced the shit, and he knows what to do. And from the little things to adjusting when he sidewalked to forward 1, the first time he immediately responded with down forward 2 and it whiffed. I think we've all seen that video on Speedkick's Twitter. So sometimes go into practice mode. Your character might have to wait a second. If you sidewalk a forward 1, you might have to delay your launcher a bit. But after he fucked it up the first time, he did it perfectly every time after that. He was punishing really well. He was dick jabbing in places where he should be dick jabbing. Just really good. So if you want to see kind of everything I've talked about in action against the best Jack player in the world, go watch Obscure Darkness versus Saint. And I think that was CEO. I work too much, so everything kind of runs together. But yeah, that was an excellent representation of what all of this. For the most part, I mean, there was some things he screwed up. Down forward 2, didn't get the optimal punish sometimes, things like that. But like I said, he's impressed me the most as far as his knowledge of the matchup and applying it. So, again, if you guys need an example of seeing this anti-Jack tech in action, go watch Obscure versus Saint. It was, even though he didn't win, it was really good. So, yeah. All right, guys, cool. Thanks for tuning in. I should have this up on YouTube tonight, and hope to see some of you online. My ranks got reset on PC, so I'm a beginner now. All right, bye.